For us, access is not an add-on. It is the aesthetic core. We invite hearing audiences into a deaf worldview, and we dare them to engage on new terms. Our work exists between worlds, not to make them comfortable, but to make them collide creatively, politically, and emotionally. Now, is 1S1 Theater the only one doing that? Absolutely not. There are other deaf-led companies out there, and I have invited their artistic directors to be part of this conversation, to lend their experience, and to ask what advice they have for 1S1 Theater.
My name is Mindy. I'm here in Stockholm, Sweden, and I'm the artistic director here at Riksdagen.
I am DJ Kurz, the artistic director of Deaf West Theater in Los Angeles, California.
Hello, my name is Josette Bushalmingo, and I am the Principal and CEO for the Royal Central School of Speech and Drama, London, United Kingdom. I'm also an actress, director, and mentor.
I'm Marita S. Barber, and I'm from Finland. I'm the artistic director for the Finnish Sign Language Theatre, which is a professional company named Tatari Toti. Our work is critical because the bottom line is deaf audiences have a right to enjoy theater that is linguistically and culturally relevant to them. And that's the type of theater that Tatari Toti provides.
Hello, my name is Jiyeon, and I'm from South Korea. I'm a dancer, hip-hop in sign language, as well as an actor and director. I do almost everything when it comes to creating art. I have two companies. One is called Hand Speak, and the other is called Nuvis. I first established Hand Speak because after studying professional dance, while Hand Speak was originally focused on creating art, over time I realized that financial support is necessary for deaf artists to work full-time. So to make that possible, I created a business focused on art, and that is how Nuvis was formed. Both companies are closely connected and work in tandem.
My name is Paula, and I am from London. I established Definitely Theatre back in 2002 and was and still am the artistic director for Definitely Theatre. My role also includes that of a theatre director and producer.
Hello, I'm Bo Hardell. I live here in Copenhagen, Denmark, and I'm one of the three founders of Theater 505, a theater company based here in Denmark.
What does deaf-led mean to you? And why is it important?
Here at Rijkstheatern, our shows are bilingual with deaf and hearing working together. What I have been seeing is that deaf people's lived experiences are often framed as disability. For us, it is not the case because we have culture, language, and identity in which makes us whole. When deaf lived experience is present on the stage, it empowers the audience and validates who we are. It's so critical because without authenticity or recognition of what makes us whole, the work loses depth and the audience is not engaged in the same way. Sign language is often misunderstood as simple, functional communication, such as, do you want to eat? Yes. Do you want to sleep? Yes. It is so much more than that.
Deaf-led is how I define Deaf West and how we have operated for over 35 years. Have I always been the lead for Deaf West? No. We had a previous leader, Ed Waterstreet, as I am the second artistic director in the company's 35-year history. Now, the meaning of deaf-led, that we actually lead the organization from our rooted experiences as deaf individuals. As deaf people, we have a unique perspective and understanding of the world, and we can practice our art in a way that honors our language, our upbringing, and our culture, which leads to authentic dialogue between the stage, actors, materials, art, and crafts in a creative design area on stage, and then to showcase all of that to an audience. Many of those audience members are rooted in our community, and they feel the authenticity and they feel that they are represented in the art that is being exposed to them. So when there is that connection, it shows we are successful, and that typically reverts back to being deaf-led.
For me, deaf-led theatre is exactly as the title suggests. It's theatre led by deaf people. That's deciding the story, how that story can be told, cultural and linguistic references. It's about how the space is held. It's led in terms of communication, deaf-led theatre. And it's important to me as an artist, and I hope an ally, that my deaf community, no matter where they are, have agency, political leadership, that it's also connected, I think, very much to the human right of every person has a right to their culture and language, and particularly to be able to tell the stories in the way they want to tell the stories. And I believe if you focus clearly on your own community, other communities will resonate. So I think it's vital, hugely important.
Deaf-led theatre is, and there's no question here, at its core, led by deaf artists. Let me give you an example of what that means to me. If I go to see a critically acclaimed play that's beautifully staged, performed by highly qualified hearing actors, the story is compelling, the costumes are stunning, the lighting effects amazing, and an interpreter's been provided, captions are available, I still find that I am unable to fully immerse myself in the performance. Something's missing for me. Regardless of the skill of the interpreter, something is still missing culturally and linguistically. I don't see my way of being as a deaf person reflected in the play, and an interpreter can never be a substitute for that. But imagine turning that experience on its head. Imagine a theater created by deaf artists with a deaf director who knows what a deaf audience needs and knows how to culturally represent the deaf experience. Now that would allow the deaf patrons to fully enter the story. Even if the actors use different sign languages, for example, I go to a play and they're using Italian Sign Language and I use Finnish Sign Language, which is different, I'm still able to fully experience the play because as deaf people, we are culturally similar. We share a deaf way of being, the way we use our bodies, our facial expression, our way of expressing ourselves through sign languages are shared regardless of our linguistic differences. Deaf theater companies can partner with hearing companies because we already have that strong theatrical foundation based on our shared linguistic and cultural experience. And as such, we know what is needed for deaf audiences to truly experience relevant theater. Hearing companies provide theater that works for their audience. We do the same for deaf audiences. And if we work together, we can create something beautiful, but it will only work if the partnership is deaf-led and includes deaf artists. I've experienced theater from around the world, and I've seen the rich cultural variations expressed in theater. The richness is expressed through so many genres, from plays to dance to clownery to opera, and hearing artists have the opportunity to showcase this. But deaf artists don't have the same opportunities. There are so few of us, and we need to grow strong together so that deaf artists can flourish. It's up to people like you and me to make that happen.
Deaf lived experience means culture, sign language, identity, and pride in being deaf. When deaf people are immersed in a hearing world, we face barriers. We get stuck. We bear a lot while being oppressed. These are experiences unique to deaf people. Hearing people do not experience this. Even when we explain, hearing people may listen and even empathize, but they will never fully grasp what it is to be deaf. When hearing people lead, deaf voices are lost. In storytelling, in body language, in sign language, and in the creative process, deaf feedback can be dismissed. Hearing people may believe they know best, and this can overpower deaf artists. This leads to frustration and even depression. Our world does not revolve around sound, and yet we are forced into that framework. I've experienced this many times. On stage, even when an audience applauds, there can be a feeling of deep exhaustion from constant patience. Deaf audience members can see and feel this. That feeling spreads. Often it is the hearing audience who applauds, while deaf audiences recognize what is missing. This is why deaf lived experience must have a voice. Hearing artists need to listen, work with it, and support it. We see examples of this in media. Platforms like Netflix are working toward more authentic representation, casting roles appropriately. If a role is Asian, they cast an Asian actor. If the role is for a woman, a Black person, or a queer person, they cast accordingly. So why, when a deaf signing role appears, is it often given to a hearing actor who is taught sign language? This leads to misrepresentation. It keeps happening, and deaf voices continue to be ignored. This must stop. Deaf artists must be on an equal level. We offer perspectives that hearing people may never have seen before. We bring creativity, skill, and a different way of being that fuels new artistic possibilities. When deaf artists lead, it also creates role models. Others see our work and are inspired to form their own groups. This creates a ripple effect. More deaf-led work, more creativity, and a larger pool of talent. And this is very important.
First of all, I will say that as a hearing person, when someone says deaf-led project, it is of course with a deaf person in the leading position. As artistic director, as economic director, but it can also be as stage director, doing when you work with theater, doing the artistic leading work. It is important. Of course it's important. It's important like every minority group should be able to tell their own story and to own their own story. So why does Teater Manu then have me as a hearing as the artistic director? I think for now I'm the one opening the doors, building knowledge, showing the theater, the Norwegian theater I come from, and a theater world where Teater Manus should be a very natural part. It has been, but a little on the side. And I want to open the doors and tell the Norwegian Theatre Society and also my employees that we should be in the middle of this society, the Theatre Society. So I hope I can be this door opener and also building the competence from inside. But as for now, for instance, when I started 4 years ago, there were one employee deaf. Today we have 7. So we are building the deaf competence from inside. And I think this is maybe one of my main goals or main tasks doing this, leading this theatre now.
I will try to keep my response concise. As an actor, I have experienced working in mainstream theater alongside deaf and hearing actors for about 10 years of my career. And all of the directors during that time were hearing people who had absolutely no knowledge of sign language. And it really got to me. It got under my skin. I mean, initially I thought, oh, it was okay. But the frustration just kept building and I had had enough. As a deaf artist, I wanted to highlight deaf stories, share deaf perspective, and promote deaf leadership. So when I was 35, I made the decision to leave hearing and mainstream theater and focus solely on deaf theater. I applied to the Arts Council of England and received funding to establish Definitely Theatre. And back then, the pool of deaf actors was so few and small. But it's grown significantly since then, and there is a legitimate deaf theater. Deaf people were not always drawn to theater because it was so hearing. But with deaf theater, they're captivated and enthusiastic to come. They see deaf actors signing on stage and the beauty of their language, BSL, being used in theater. This has piqued more interest. They want to be involved, and the numbers have grown over the years. This is so important because hearing people don't know sign language. And so a hearing director with a deaf actor will often respond with this, oh, great, good, thumbs up, good job, which is not helpful at all. As a deaf director, my eyes will catch the subtleties and nuances of the language, the signs, and I can offer suggestions and corrections through rehearsals that will advance the performance to a higher level. Hearing actors are trained to articulate and enunciate with affect and tone or emotion, which allows a hearing audience to connect or relate to the performance. A deaf director does the exact same thing with deaf actors. And then deaf audience members can appreciate a performance in the very same way, rather than that typical experience of not understanding. So that's why deaf-led theater is so important. And it also shows that deaf people can act. Deaf people can be creators. They can be writers, directors, costume designers, lighting designers, the whole gamut. So it's not just acting. We can do it all. And we want to showcase that. When I first started in theater, I was 22, 23 maybe, and there were so few deaf people involved. Most people would say, oh no, it's impossible for deaf people to be part of the theater industry. But, we've proven that we can, and we continue to grow. We have role models who share that same experience, and because of that, more deaf people are aspiring to become part of theater. It's that legacy piece, right, of creating a new generation of deaf actors in deaf theater. Deaf-led theater is so important, and it is an absolute must.
Deaf-led projects are so important. They're not a rejection of the hearing world, but rather a recognition of deaf visions, deaf interests, deaf culture, deaf lived experiences, deaf expression, all of that, from which we make our own way. As opposed to incorporating deaf artists into the hearing world and following a hearing path, it's about validating our deaf way. It gives hearing people something more decidedly native to the deaf way, to deaf ways of expressing and being, something that is truly ours. It's something that could offer the mainstream different perspectives to resonate with, to collaborate with, and to belong to.
We would like to acknowledge and thank the Canada Council for the Arts for their support of us at 1S1 Theatre and Why Not Theatre and our company Exchange and Collaboration. The Canada Council for the Arts Sector Support, Innovation and Development Grant has enabled the creation of this 3-part Salon series. One salon is entitled Unpacking Common Mistakes in Deaf Hearing Theatre Collaborations. Another explores 1S1 Theatre's deaf-led vision for the future. And then there is an interview with Why Not Theatre about their production, Prince Hamlet. The aim of the series is to generate a dialogue which can increase awareness of deaf-led work among those in the arts sector, and of the importance of giving us, as deaf artists, power, visibility, and space. All of your input, contributions, and experiences were vital to the creation of these conversations, which have become a resource for our community and for all the diverse communities in the sector. To share, foster collaboration, and serve as an inspiration so that together we can flourish and thrive. Thank you. And also, to Why Not Theatre, I want to offer my utmost and most heartfelt gratitude. Thank you for your unwavering support for 1S1 Theatre.